Good afternoon. It's a chilly Saturday and I wanted to play. That's what I like to do on Saturdays is play. This is Pam, Follow Your Brush. I wanted to share a few of my favorite things. When I first began watercolor 3.5 years ago, I had so many questions and so few answers. I just kind of went, learned as I went. But today I want to share some of my favorite things that I learned in the process. First one I'm going to do here is a wet on wet. I have a group called Follow Your Brush, and if you're interested in that, that's on Facebook. If you are artistic in any form or fashion, we welcome you over there. It's a place where artists of all different mediums and levels, beginners, some that have painted for years, that we just share what we enjoy and what we're trying, and we're not worried about the outcome. We love the process, and we love to see your process. Someone this morning shared a mixed media of acrylic and some, she actually used black eyeliner, watercolor, and acrylic all in the same painting. It was great. This first one I'm going to show you is wet on wet. When your paper is wet ahead of time, kind of has a sheen. That's one way you can tell that it's, whoops, I see a spot there that I missed. I don't have my, we're going to go with it anyway. A couple spots I missed actually. But when it's wet on wet, you're going to get flow. And this is particularly pretty, I think. I really enjoy doing it this way. This brush that I'm using is from Tracy Levinson. I have this slanted, so you see it is flowing down this direction. It's going to come up this way a little bit. Isn't that pretty? Actually, you know what? I could stop right there probably. Sometimes I need to listen to myself. And let's do, look at this. If I do it this way, hold it this way, I think that right there, just all by itself, is a beautiful painting. It's gonna dry lighter. I'm gonna move on and just let it dry, but isn't that, I think that's really pretty. So that's wet on wet. And I need to stop so I don't ruin it. That's my problem as I keep going. I'm gonna clean my brush and go to another spot here. Another thing that I like to do, this is called, we kind of call this kind of the same idea, because you're going into a wet area, but it's the whole page has not been wet previously. And I really enjoy doing this. I call this, actually, you know what? I'm going to move this way because that has me really inspired. Let me move my mug. I'm going to prop this up here, so I'll just show you a little bit at a time. But I'm going to work on this one now. I really enjoy doing this. Sometimes it's called channeling your pigment, and this is probably one of my favorite ways to paint. And that is, I come in first with my water where I want it to go. Sometimes I do it shape of a flower. I'm thinking trees today with the holidays. So I'm going to come down here like this. I see a tiny bit of pink left in my water. I probably didn't get that clean quite enough. But then what I like to do is come into where those wet spots are and let the pigment run into just those areas. This is my Amazite Genuine, I'm sorry, not Amazite, Green Apatite Genuine. It's a Daniel Smith color that has actual minerals in the paint. What they do is, and they're not the only ones that do this, other companies have granulated paint. Schminke has a great collection. They grind the stones and pigments into the pigment in the process while they're creating it, so that when you go to paint with it, it runs with the water, which watercolor does anyway, but with the pigment paints, it's going to leave little pigments of the stone in the paper. The paper is, this particular paper is Daniel Smith, I'm sorry, I'm just giving you all the wrong information. I'm really helpful, aren't I? It's Arches, or Arche, as they say, as I have been told. So this is 100% cold press. So the paper has texture in it. So you will see as the pigment comes down the water channels that I have made, it's going to leave pigment and particles behind in the paper. I hope you can see that. Let me zoom in so you can see what this is doing. See how beautifully you have these little particles? And as they dry, it's going to really give you, this one needs more water here. They really give you an interesting texture. When I first heard about granulating paint, I thought, why in the world do you use it, and why would you even want to? I just didn't understand. I'm going to wet some of my background here. And no, I didn't do this ahead of time. This is just going to be a softer area I'm going to put in here. I'm going to put in a little bit of a different color, another one of my favorite colors. It's called Cascade Green, but actually when it dries more of a blue. This is also by Daniel Smith. Just wanted to show it to you. And this is it's called Cascade Green. It's also a granulating color, so it has more than one pigment in it. So when this one dries, you're just going to see all kind of different colors. Let me get some more water on here. You're going to see turquoise, you're going to see some blue. I'll show you another one on the other side. I'm not trying to make any masterpieces here. I'm just trying to show you some of my favorite things. I could sing along with this, a few of my favorite things, but I'll spare you, because I don't think that's why you're watching, just to listen to me sing. I've been painting in watercolor about 3.5 years. Isn't that a pretty color? I do like that. I'm going to come on the other side with another. I'm going to wet this part. So this is one of my favorite things to do, is to just wet an area. Now, if you're sketching something like an apple, banana, you can sketch ahead of time and then drop in your colors. And that's fun too. I'm going to come in on this side with a little different one that I like, a little different granulating color. It's called Moon Glow. This one has like, it comes on, oh, look at that. It's kind of like a grays and purples and pinks and lavenders as this one dries. And it's also a really, really pretty granulating color. And it's just fun to drop into your water. And let it do what it wants to do and run. And then you see the different colors as they come down. And so that's another one of my favorites. And the Moon Glow, I'm going to put some more here on the bottom. This also makes a nice shadow color. Now you can mix colors, but the granulating colors have already been mixed with other pigments. So when you order them, if you're into pigment numbers and all that kind of thing, it will tell you, you know, what the pigment numbers are in the paint, and so you'll know. But I can come back in here, and another favorite thing to do, let me show you this while we're doing it, is what's called dry brush. When you have a little bit of paint left on your brush, your paper's dry, your brush is just damp and just has a little bit of pigment, you get this texture. There you go, this texture. And that's called dry brush. See, so you can get a different effect. It's on your dry paper. Got that? So that's channeling your water a little bit. Come back out and up. I just do like that one, like the way that one's drying. I might go back into that a little bit in a while. This one, I want to show something that's really fun, and that is using salt. And I've had, when I started painting, people asked me if I had tried salt, and I was like, no, why would I want to throw salt on my painting? I just didn't get it. But I'm going to give you an example here. This is going to be nice, and see, that's some dry brush there. I'm going to add some more water though. This is in Granulating Blue with watercolor. To make the color lighter, you add more water. You can mix other colors if you wish. And I'll add some more to this in a minute, and we are going to add and make another color. We'll play with that in a second. That's another thing I've been working on, is learning some color mixing. Because I was so spoiled with so many different colors that I was always kind of using them straight out of my palette rather than mixing colors and discovering what other colors I could make. So I've been learning how to mix some colors, and that's been fun. I'm going to add some color to this, and we're going to create something else. But then I want to show you something else I can do. I'm going to add some magenta. So we're probably going to get some lavender coming up here. There we go. See some up there? See some lavender? It's coming. Really see some down here where it's darker, where the Granulating Blue is darker. Adding that magenta, and it's giving us some lavender down in here, and that's really pretty. But what I want to show you with this one, we've talked about the salt. And it's like, why in the world would you want to add salt to your painting? Salt is another way of bringing some texture. So we're talking about textures, some of the things I've learned. One is the granulating color. One is just strictly wet on wet, and I still like that. That's really pretty. And another one is adding salt. So while you're painting, your paint is still damp. Your page is still damp. Your paper is still a little, let's just kind of do something here. So we might want to make a tree or something of that nature. We want to give some texture to the back, to the bottom, or the background, or kind of like this. I'm going to add a little bit more water to it. Let this soften up. I like to doodle. I do sketch as well, but I do like to doodle. And we're going to add some salt. While the paint is still damp is when you add your salt, because it's going to create an effect for you. It's going to pick up, you'll see here. Let me add some salt down here. It's table salt and a little bit over here. I need to enlarge a little bit here. Let's enlarge. You can see the salt will pick up the color of your paint. If your painting is too dry, it's not going to pick it up. But if your salt turns color, then you know that it's ready to receive the salt. Then as it dries, I'm going to put some kosher sea salt up here. This is a little thicker. It'll give you different effects. So this will show you that. And while that's drying, I should have done this other method first, but while that's drying, I'm going to go on to show you something else. You can see how it's already beginning to absorb the salt, and then you get little white crystals almost in your painting. I'm going to move to this one. I'm going to turn this around. I do this a lot. Whoops. Well, that was smart. Move that. Okay, I'm going to move this one around here so we can zoom in on this corner right here. This one I'm going to show you a method that I also enjoy, and that's Clang Wrap. And for this one, I'm also going to do some of this in Granulating blue. Let me wet it some more. But when you're doing a painting, sometimes you want, let me just give you an example. Since I'm painting, right? Let's do a little bit of a blue background here. So I'm going to bring this in Granulating blue up. Kind of do like a little cloudy thing. And then here on the bottom, we'll have some trees. Now these aren't, intensive lessons or anything like that. I'm just giving you some examples of my favorite things that I like to do, and just tell you why and how I do them. I'm going to come in with a little darker color here. This is a burnt umber. And let's pretend we're making a tree. A little burnt umber tree. It is fall after all. This is wet, so it's going to be softer like my other one was on that other corner. But down here in the bottom, I'm going to want to put some leaves. Get back and do some more in this tree here in a second. Let me put in some Clang Gold. The golds and the yellows and quinacridone gold, they kind of push the other, see how that kind of pushes the other colors out of the way. But I'm going to use that to kind of delineate my tree a little bit and give it some light color here as well as the dark. Trying to do this quickly and not prolong the process. Come in with some warm sepia. This is what I was talking about with my granulating colors and just letting them run. Might be a little bit too wet. I need more pigment on this one. There you go. Now you can see it better. And with my tip, where it's still dry, I can make some lacy branches. Let's come back in here, a little more definition. I know my trees outside are more silver and gray than they are brown, but I'm just doing this for an example to show you this technique that I like. So we'll put some sepia, this warm sepia down in here. Got my, clean my brush. Come back in here, some more of my gold. See how that pushes that out of the way? So it kind of gives me more of a fall leafy look here on the ground. And adding it to the blue that I had on there, you see it's also making some green. It's mixing on the page. So here's my little fall tree. It's kind of coming up here, just kind of waving in the breeze. But what I want to do, what I want to show you is, I could put a little bit more just of this Quin burnt umber, just to give it some texture on the outside of my tree. And as it dries, you'll see that even more. Let's add some of this down here in the leaves. What I want to do down here, while it's still damp, is add some cling film, cling wrap. And what you do is you kind of scrunchy it up and press it on the bottom or wherever you want it. I could actually, whoops, didn't mean to do that. You do it while your paint's still wet. You can scrunch it up to get the shapes that you want. And you're going to let that dry. And I'm going to leave it alone, maybe, huh? Okay, I don't want to run too long here. Let's go back and visit our other ones. Okay, so these are a few of my favorite things. And of course, I turned that upside down. But we've got our tree with the granulating colors coming down the wet. This is dry now. So you can see how that granulated. This is my salt experiment, still a little damp. So you have to, you don't want to brush it off until it's dry, otherwise you're going to smear it a little bit. But you can see how the table salt truly gives that little texture. And if you do it lightly in just little areas, it's not so obvious as this one is. But I was just trying to give you an example. But if you're doing like a meadow and you want some grass and you want just some little sparkles of white flowers, instead of going in and with gouache or masking fluid, you can just sprinkle that salt on while it's still damp and just cup a little areas, use your fingers, and then you'll see the little, see how pretty that is, like little leafy, almost like little dandelion. These big ones are going to leave bigger marks, but they're still damp. So let's look at this one then, my wet on wet. And this is dry now, but isn't that pretty? I like that. And what I can do, if I want to, and I'm going to, is now that it's dry, I can come back in just go over it with some loose brush marks and make it into a pretty little limited palette tree. I like this. I really like this one. So when it's after it's dry, you can come back in with some pigment and add some little details to it if you wish, and then that's the background, and it just really makes a lovely little painting. Another thing I recommend when you're first starting is to try to stay small when you first start. My daughter would cut up paper for me on the paper cutter. I would take some big sheets like this and just cut them up into quarter size pieces, and then just spend my time just painting with just the little pieces and experimenting and playing. You do realize that a lot of the artists that we see on Facebook or YouTube, that they show us these fabulous things, it's probably only a small percentage of what they actually do, because we really don't hit the mark every time. And a lot of it is experimentation, and we just learn as you go. And that's what I'm doing. But that's one reason I kind of wanted to share a little YouTube channel, is to show you that I'm learning as I go. And I thought I had questions when I started, and I thought y'all might have questions too. So let me come back out a little bit. I am going to, even though this is still a little wet, I'm going to just lightly brush this off. And you can see what the bigger salt particles did. See that? So if you want some cool effects in your paintings, you can do that. I did do this painting for my daughter and I as a Christmas card. And I used the salt just a little bit over here on this side and a little bit in here to just kind of represent a little bit of snowbank. Let's go back to, got some, this one. Let me turn this one back upside down. This isn't totally dry yet, but I think you get the picture and how you can understand how then you can build on your painting from here. This is just a beginning. So you take it off gently, and it gives you kind of a stained glass appearance. Then you can go from there and either fill this in, add more Clang Wrap. You can develop your tree more. You can use this for leaves at the bottom. And, you know, it just, the possibilities are kind of endless. But I love the Clang Wrap. Sometimes it's fun just to do it and look for shapes, look for hidden pictures like we used to with when we were little kids with the highlights book. So that's all I'm going to share, because I wanted to make this short and I probably went too long. But I hope you enjoyed a few little of my favorite things. Thanks for watching, and as always, you can check me out on Follow Your Brush, and I encourage you to have a great day and follow your brush and play. That's how we learn. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you're still with me, if you wish to. And I'll keep you posted as I learn some more tips and tricks as I go. Thanks for watching. Bye.